All right, good morning. So we are trying to use this new system. It's a little bit fuzzy. I hope it does not disappoint us today. Um, yeah. So audience, I hope you guys can see us clear. I see you fuzzy on my own part. I'm not really sure what's going on. But either way, let's give it a try and see. Oh, actually, it became clear. It's clearer now. Nice. Awesome. Okay, so don't be surprised if we have to switch back to our old system. This is something new that we're trying with Zoom in order to limit the interference. So thank you guys so much for joining us once again. My name is Mona Chimso Aga. I reside in Houston area. I'm in Texas. And I
Surprised
have
if we
my
have to.
wonderful sisters here with me who are going to introduce themselves before we introduce our wonderful um, contributor today. So sisters, please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Augusta Nosuke. I reside here in Richmond, Texas. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Equitas Simon Okube. Today, I want to give you the objective to make you understand what we're doing today. The main thing we want you to take up from today's show is to understand that LNC's propositions, templates, roadmap is a product of clearly thought out processes guided by principles of democracy and people's rights. That's what we want you to take away from today's show. And therefore, we want to appeal to the conscience of our internal slave masters, those denying us and delaying this independence project. Because of what they're getting, some are receiving 4,000 pounds, some 3,000 pounds of our people's blood. It is time to have a change of heart. Another group is the political class, the traditional rulers. Does it not matter to you that we're about to perish? Please go and learn a trade, acquire a new skill so that you can get some employment like any other. Remember, we will not appeal to you forever. Time is running out. Our life is in danger. Stop what you're doing. Get gainfully employed so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sister, for that disclaimer. So, of course, as you guys can see, we have a wonderful guest today, Mr. Mark Olise, excuse me. So as we prepare for the activation of the constitutional force majeure, as we continue the process today, our host, Mr. Olise, the Director of Public Communication, Lower Niger Congress, will help us to x-ray the sovereignty questions emanating from the constitutional grievances fueling the agitation across that land called Nigeria, for which a remediation action has become very, very imperative. So I will have my sister AP give us a proper introduction of our brother who is here to enlighten us about the issues pertaining to our struggle today. Sister, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mark Olise is a graduate of chemistry from the University of Benin. His credentials of self-determination his credentials in the self-determination sphere or political activism include crucial roles in organizations like the Niger Delta People's Salvation Front and its forerunner, Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force, as well as various people's emancipation processes, such as Student Unionism, PRONACO, and MNN. He is a founding member of Lower Niger Congress, a respected voice on the issues of self-determination, both in immediate Lower Niger and on the national stage. Mr. Mark Olise, you're welcome.
Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Good morning, my sisters. Good morning. Those who are in the morning part of the world, good afternoon to us who are in the afternoon part of the world. It's a pleasure of being in your program, which will give it my best.
Mr. Olise, let's try without the earpiece so that we can get a clearer voice. For some reason, it's muffled when you're talking. So you can
Is it clear enough? Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, but it's not making sense. It's very muffled. So I'm thinking maybe without the earpiece, this earpiece can be a danger itself. So try it without the earpiece. Let's take your earpiece out. Like remove it from the device and use it directly. Use the voice directly on the device and see.
Is it clear down with the earpiece?
Sounds like a horror movie coming out from the grave. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. It's like, ooh. So do you want to change position? Do you mind changing position maybe? Because I know with Wi-Fi, sometimes you get it better in some area than others. We can get a clearer voice.
Okay. Maybe you should put me off a bit and let me move away from you.
So what we can do, audience, we have a 20 minutes video anyway that we need to play. So we can start off with that while he tries to sort out this voice issue. Sorry about that. This is not what we intended that will happen today, but of course, the country called Nigeria doesn't have any stability in anything. So we're going to play this interview he had.
All walks of life and ethnicity, ethnic groupings appears to believe that the current Nigerian federal structure needs restructuring. It is not uncommon to hear that Nigeria will never move forward or develop if restructuring of the federation does not take effect. Some even say that breakup of Nigeria is imminent unless restructuring takes place. The curious thing about the clamor for restructuring of Nigeria is that none of the advocates have clearly detailed what they want to see Nigeria look like. This continued clamor for restructuring began with a call for true federalism that will devolve power to the states. Devolution of power was one of the amended items in the 1999 Constitution earmarked for voting in the two chambers of the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Representatives. But the Senate, in its voting exercise, jettisoned the bill. Members of the House followed suit in a similar exercise conducted. The questions now are, was the National Assembly right to have voted against the devolution of powers? Why the renewed call for restructuring? What do Nigerians understand with the term restructuring? How can agitations from different quarters be resolved? We have joining me in the studio a strategist and Deputy Communications Director for a group known as the Lower Niger Congress, Mark Olise. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thank you, my brother, and good afternoon, Nigeria, and everybody listening and watching.
Now let's take some reports from our correspondents and other experts on the issue.
33 sections of the constitutions were presented before the Senate and the House of Representatives. The votings in both chambers were prefaced by internal lobbying. Most relevant in the exercise is the issue which concerns restructuring. In particular, is the issue of the devolution of powers, which was rejected in both chambers. Analysts and political commentators see the rejection as turning the deaf ears to popular opinion and, by extension, postponing the evil days.
I cannot stand here and celebrate the amendments, But the other reason why we've ended up with this kind of amendment is that you can actually question the legitimacy of what happened. You don't amend the constitution on the sly. This issue of devolution of powers, they shouldn't have played with it. There must have been a lot of sensitization.
And it is very painful. It's very painful because we are at a point where many people are crying for restructuring.
The voting pattern appeared to have played one whole region against the other. These legislators believe the Northern agenda was played out, defying the agreement during the lobbying.
Many of them don't understand exactly the meaning of the word devolution. They don't understand. And if you look at the amendment, just read down the whole thing. Many of us were shocked. But the way caucus has met and agreed that, look, number this, we must vote them down. We don't want them. What is the reason? No reason.
Everybody in this Senate, or indeed in the National Assembly, is accountable to somebody. And we are accountable to our constituencies or senatorial districts, as the case may be. So no matter how hard someone clamors, unless there is a convergence of clamoring between his clamor and the clamor of my people, I will vote on the side of my people, what my people want.
The renewed tensions among agitators and the emergence of new groups such as Yoruba Liberation Command and the Niger Delta Revolutionary Crusaders are said to be part of the consequences of the action of the lawmakers.
It's creating more harm than good. I don't know whether after have you seen that the agitation is still on? Nigerians deserve a better say in this constitutional amendment process than the National Assembly has been willing to accord to Nigerians. And they must understand that they are there at the instigation and behest and for the interests of Nigerians. And right now they're serving themselves.
The lawmakers say all hope is not totally lost, as the bills can still be represented. The amendment by the National Assembly will travel round all the state houses of assembly, and each clause requires the 2/3 majority to go through.
The program is People, Politics, and Power. And like I did say, my guest is Mark Olise. He's a strategist and Deputy Communications Director for a group known as Lower Niger Congress. What is Lower Niger Congress?
Lower Niger Congress, LNC, is a platform, or put it this other way, a coalition of groups and individuals that have been working on resolving the sovereignty questions in Nigeria, that have been working around issues of self-determination and freedom for the people, from the area known as the Niger Delta region to the Eastern Heartland.
Okay, so you're working with all these interest groups working for self-determination.
Yes, working for self-determination and a restoration of sovereignty to the people in accordance with the universal principle, which the 1999 Constitution acknowledged, even when it lied at the beginning that the Constitution was formed by the people. It acknowledged later that sovereignty resides in the people from which government derives its authority. That is a universal principle all over the world. In fact, it is the bedrock of democracy, that sovereignty resides in the people. But in 1967, the military regime, and the political hegemony of that period usurped the sovereignty of the people, dissolved the structure that were negotiated under the principles of self-determination prior to independence, dissolved those structures, and unilaterally set up a 12-state structure. Subsequently made it 19, and so on and so forth. Today we have 36, But what we actually have is a unitary, country, which they call One Nigeria, a unitary country that have taken over people's land and resources, has usurped their sovereignty, and dictates to them, including even telling them the way they will be run by dictating a constitution, the 1999 Constitution. And beyond that, even going further, to arrogate themselves the power to even, amend those constitutions and claim that amending it is going to reflect our will. The questions being raised on the streets and by the people and by the self-determination group and the various nationalities, including the indigenous peoples that find themselves within the contraption of Nigeria today, the questions being raised are sovereignty questions. They are not questions of, the magnanimity of the political class or an expression of whether you like it, any form of Father Christmas dishing out of gift. It is about them coming into the arena of politics and taking over their destiny. There are two ways by which people can come into the arena of politics. One is by revolution, and the other is by a bloodless process that the world has modified to call a referendum. It is why you see before anybody joins EU, the country conducts a referendum. Before a major policy change happens at the EU, the various countries will conduct referendum to decide whether they accept or not. If you want to leave EU, you conduct a referendum. But in Nigeria, since these people declared a state of emergency in 1967, they have excluded the people totally from the process of determining the ground norm, of expressing their right to self-determination, of determining their sovereignty, which is a principle in international law. Modern international law recognizes self-determination as, the process by which people determine their sovereignty, determine their existence, and determine their whatever political union they can become part of without interference from people outside that circle. That is what the Yoruba National Assembly, just expressed recently. It is what, MASOB has been expressing. It is what OPC has been expressing. And perhaps the 12 states that declare Sharia, who were the first to vociferously reject the 1999 Constitution by declaring Sharia law in their territory. These are the things they are expressing, their right to self-determination.
Now, the way people are not allowed to self-determine their operations, or the kind of regard we are not longer giving to sovereignty of the people. Do I call that your own idea of restructuring?
Well, it's not my own idea of restructuring. It is the general principle. In fact, it's the basic principle of how modern societies, modern democratic societies are organized. And that is the basis of the original clamor for restructuring of the federation. By that original clamor, they are saying that there should be a return to the constitutional order that was negotiated on the basis of self-determination prior to independence. If you remember, Zik and other people met in the East in 1947 or was it 1948 and said that the minimum requirement under which they will go into independence with the rest of Nigeria was self-determination. Sir Amadou Bello said it expressly. I saw the video of that. That of Zik, I read it. Amadou Bello's own was in a video. He said that they are deciding that they are not ready for independence before 1960. And that they are expressing that in accordance with their right to self-determination. He used that word. It's not a new, I was interacting with somebody recently. I was saying that people are brandishing slogans and the rest as if it's a new word. Self-determination has been there. In fact, the independence of Nigeria was fought and won on the basis of that modern international principle of the right to self-determination by all the key players. Awolowo, Zik, Amadou Bello, Tafawa Balewa, Abat Macaulay, the father of them all. It was on the basis of the right to self-determination that the various regions, came into agreement that they were going to, federate. In fact, the Middle Belt, in expression of their own right to self-determination, said they were not even going to go into one northern region with the core north, unless the core north compromised on Sharia. That they will not be in the same union with Sharia. The core north had to compromise on Sharia. Sharia was put on the table, it was compromised for there to be a one north, only for these same people to turn back, recently to declare Sharia in their zones, contrary to the agreement reached before independence. So what people mean by restructuring is a return to the constitutional order that recognized the federating units that struggled for independence, that recognized the constitution that those federating units developed.
All right. Mark, since you are an important person in LNC, that's Lower Niger Congress, I think we will set aside almost a better part of this program today discussing self-determination. But then I want to know from you, break it down for us. What exactly is self-determination? Are we talking in terms of leadership, resource control, or what?
Self-determination I will have to reiterate, that self-determination is a modern principle, a principle in modern international law that recognizes the rights of peoples, to determine, for themselves the way they want to be governed, which means to make a constitution for themselves, to determine their sovereignty, which includes determining political unions that they want to be part of. That also recognizes the right that they cannot be forced to be part of any political union. But when you hear about people telling you that the unity of Nigeria is non-negotiable, it's a confirmation that the people were conquered and are in bondage.
So it's negotiable.
Everything is negotiable. The people can only be part of a union by consent, by choice. It is why the opening paragraph of all constitutions say that we, the people, decide to make for ourselves the following constitution. Because the sovereignty resides in them, it's a universal principle. So that's the self-determination. Without and when the people are exercising that, right, it is without interference from forces that are not part of the people in question that are exercising their right to self-determination.
Can we therefore move forward if people high up there in government are saying that Nigeria's unity is not negotiable, and some eminent personalities, including Olise, Prof, are saying it is negotiable? Are we not in trouble?
We are not in trouble. Olise has only just appreciated the fact that the United Nations, even reiterated, apart from the UN Charter that recognized self-determination many decades ago. Recently, in 2007, the United Nations General Assembly endorsed the rights of indigenous people to self-determination and spelled out details of what that right entails and how it can be expressed. Olise, as a man of knowledge, has just expressed the fact, unlike individuals that parade themselves as professors of constitutional law and constitutional lawyers, senior advocates, and the rest, who still continue to defend the 1999 Constitution as if it doesn't matter the source, it doesn't matter that it's a forged document, by claiming that the people made it and it has been shown that the people didn't make it, in a suit that was filed on behalf of Anthony Naro, Olise, Bishop Bonigi, Dokubo Asari, Ralph Wazurike, and a couple of others, Alhaji Yerima Shetima, who just gave that ultimatum.
Yeah,
He was part of the signatory to the lawsuit that was filed on their behalf by the Secretary General of the Lower Niger Congress, Tony Nnadi. It is clear what the situation is. But some people still want to continue to enjoy the loot from the annexation of all the sovereignties of our people by the Nigerian state and the hegemony that's perpetrated that in 1967 and are still in control today. You see them gather either as Council of State or gather under whatever toga. They are still in control today. The same people that usurp our sovereignty, the same people that prosecuted the war of genocide, the same people who, after the war, said no victor, no vanquish, carried on as if there was a booty of the war that had to be shared, and they distributed oil blocks to themselves. Today, these people, folk cannot probe them or investigate into their wealth, but these people are richer than those they call richest people in Africa. I can tell you that the loot of these people will make the lives of Dangote look wretched. Even Abacha's family said that recently, that no matter how rich Dangote is, his wealth will still be, like wretchedness compared to theirs.
All right, you have been talking about referendum. Don't you think, can't the National Conference or Sovereign National Conference or whatever take care of referendum?
A Sovereign National Conference. Of course, a Sovereign National Conference was the vehicle, that was canvassed over the years, through which all of these sovereignty questions can be, resolved. Yes. But unfortunately, those who benefit from this mediocre system, from this master-servant relationship or master-servant constitutional order, from this apartheid-like constitution, have stood their ground and resisted, the attempts to convoke that conference. In fact, it was a major demand by NADECO. NADECO included all the forces, that wanted the restoration of sovereignty and true democracy in the country. It was a demand that before the country goes into transition in 1998-99, that Sovereign National Conference should hold. It was, the idea was to make sure that power truly returns back to the people, and the people now decide their constitutional order, determine who gets what and what, set up rules that will make sure that, even the president of the country can be investigated for crimes, including corruption. Unlike what they have today, that they are above, there are certain people that have been spelled out to above the law. Yes. The FCID cannot dare go and investigate Mr. President. That is not a democratic country. It's not a free country. They cannot, EFCC cannot investigate Mr. President. That's not a free country. Rather, they wait for dictation from these forces to go ahead and do their investigation. They are because rather than becoming an instrument for crime control, prevention, and investigation, they are now vehicles for, policing and preventing the people from expressing their sovereignty. Only recently, I heard that they tear gas and shot an elderly Nigerian, Charlie Boy Oputa. That is the function that they now serve because of, the fact that Nigeria is a police state. Nigeria is an occupation state. And I would like to use this medium to put the world on notice that, based on the rejection of the current constitutional order in the country by prominent groups and nationalities that are currently within the control of Nigeria. Even institutions. Yes, and institutions such as the Yoruba National Assembly, OPC, World Igbo Congress, Ohaneze Ndigbo, Middle Belt Forum, Arewa Consultative Forum, including the Arewa Constitutive Youth Forum, and so on. On the basis of the rejection of the current constitutional order, it means that Nigeria, as presently constituted, is a fraud. It means that Nigeria, as presently constituted, is a rogue state. And what are the implications for the world? The implication is that Nigeria has left a lot of spaces in the country ungoverned and contested and challenged by several forces, positive and negative forces, such as you can see your Sambisa Forest and several places in the Northeast. You can see that the creeks of the Niger Delta, even the Nigeria marine forces can't even claim to police there effectively. So what are the implications for the world? With so many ungoverned territories, there is room for anarchy, there's room for terrorism. And the refugee problem that Nigeria is contributing, you'll be shocked that it's more than what Syria is contributing currently. So just imagine when it fully leads to a breakdown, if the world, the United Nations Security Council, doesn't come together today to help in this smooth transition from a union that has collapsed irreparably to one that, will ensure order and peace, for the world. This is the most populous part of Black Africa.
Okay. Can you use this forum to actually spell out what are the functions of the United States Security Council in the present affairs situation of Nigeria?
The United Nations Security Council, has set aside an agenda for itself to fight, terrorism. You have counter-terrorism, they have anti-terrorism programs, they have counter-terrorism programs, and they also have a program on promotion of democracy. One, there's no democracy down here, even when we profess to be one. They have to come down on that. It's part of their function. There is also the counter-terrorism and anti-terrorism. The fact that Nigeria has so many ungoverned spaces because of the collapse of the state structure, being an occupation state, we are posing a threat, security and terrorism threat to the world. You know about the Christmas Day bomber. You know Boko Haram operating in several territories around the Chad Basin. You know how much of the terrorists have been exported from here to Somalia, and we get from the news, and other Al-Qaeda zones, including Arab areas, Syria, Iraq, Libya. So the world should treat the case of Nigeria from the security perspective, that they have to come down and discuss with the various people the various peoples that are expressing their right to self-determination, they have to come down and discuss with them and allow them via an orderly process, assist them to transit to a new constitutional order that would be devoid of rancor and anarchy.
All right, so this is...
All right, we'll continue later on, but I wanted to see if I can bring my brother in